Hello, hello, hello! The British Empire was the most impressive empire of all recorded history. It contained a third of the world's population and a quarter of its land surface. If you include territorial waters, the empire was as big as the surface of the moon. Yet, to many modern eyes, the legacy of the empire is scarcely felt at all, such is the rapid change of our times. However, there is still much more than there first seems. Here is all that remains of the British Empire. Though compared to the incomprehensible scale of the British Empire as it was, anything seems small, His Majesty King Charles still rules over an incredibly vast area of land. At present, there are 15 Commonwealth realms, those countries ruled by the King, encompassing 150 million people, about $7.3 trillion in GDP, £5.6 trillion, and 7.2 million square miles, excluding Antarctica, which is still 52% of the land size at the Empire's territorial peak. These include Britain, of course, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Papua New Guinea, the Solomon Islands, and Tuvalu in the Pacific, and Belize, Jamaica, St. Kitts and Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, Antigua and Barbuda, the Bahamas, St. Lucia, and Grenada in the Caribbean. The King is the monarch of the Commonwealth realms under separate legal authority for each realm. If Britain became a republic, for example, he would still rule the other realms. There are also two countries that are not ruled by the King, but that do have the Union flag in their flag. These are Fiji, which was part of the Empire, and, oddly enough, Hawaii, which has never been part of the Empire. Within the sovereignty of Britain, there are also 14 British overseas territories, which is the modern politically correct term for colonies. These include the Caribbean territories of Anguilla, the British Virgin Islands, the Cayman Islands, Montserrat, and the Turks and Caicos Islands, the capital of which is Cockburn Town. Then there's Bermuda, famed for the Bermuda Triangle, St. Helena, Ascension, and Tristan da Cunha in the South Atlantic, St. Helena, of course, being where Napoleon was exiled. Then there are the Falkland Islands and South Georgia and the Sandwich Islands, where we famously show those bastard Argentines who's boss. There's the British Antarctic Territory, an utterly huge 660,000 square mile parcel of land, and the Pitcairn Islands, famous from the mutiny aboard the HMS Bounty, and the other thing. Then there's the British Indian Ocean Territory, Gibraltar, Britain's tiny part of Iberia at the mouth of the Mediterranean, and the sovereign base areas of Akrotiri and Dhekelia, which are on the island of Cyprus, and have been referred to as unsinkable aircraft carriers. All said, these territories are located in very strategically useful locations, can be great holiday destinations, and can be of great financial utility. However, you may not know that Australia and New Zealand also have overseas territories. Australia has Heard Island and the McDonald Islands, the Ashmore and Cartier Islands, the Coral Sea Islands, the Australian Antarctic Territory, Norfolk Island, the Cocos-Keeling Islands, and the delightfully named Christmas Island, with the capital of Flying Fish Cove. The realm of New Zealand is a slightly different case, containing New Zealand proper, the Ross Dependency, which is New Zealand's Antarctic territory, the dependent territory of Tokelau, and the two self-governing associated states of New and the Cook Islands, which are unified together by King Charles separately in his role as monarch of New Zealand. Interestingly, these four entities are within a currency union, but not a customs union. Lastly, due to proximity, New Zealand is heavily involved in the governance of the Pitcairn Islands, with the UK High Commissioner to New Zealand also being the governor of Pitcairn. Together, the land still under King Charles remains impressively vast, and, fun fact, the sun still never sets over the British colonial domain. Beyond just land, there do remain several vestiges of empire diplomatically. For one, in 1987, the status of British national overseas was created, which applied to all British colonial subjects. This today means there are millions of Hong Kongers, and people from other British overseas territories, who hold British nationality status, and who have the right to live in Britain for up to 5 years, with an easy route to becoming naturalised British subjects, although British nationals overseas are not automatically British citizens. All Commonwealth nationals living in the UK also have the right to vote in British elections. This used to be reciprocal in some countries, but no longer is. Commonwealth nationals can also supposedly join the British Armed Forces, though the MOD's website seems to state that this is temporarily no longer allowed. I'm not too sure. This may have something to do with the recent complaints about the lack of respect from Commonwealth recruits. Who knows? We also have many military bases and training agreements across the world. I'll put the Wikipedia page up for you to read, but the highlights are that Britain has 145 overseas military installations located across 42 countries, including 5 facilities in Kenya, training in Sierra Leone, a fixed presence in the Middle East and Somalia, a port facility in Singapore, a remnant of the much larger base of His Majesty's Naval Base Singapore, British Forces Brunei, a base in Canada, and many bases across NATO. Most famous of all though, and perhaps the best vestige of the empire, is the Gurkhas. After the Second Anglo-Nepalese War, the British, who were nonetheless victorious, were so impressed by the fighting spirit of the Nepalese that, incredibly, they signed a treaty with Nepal that gave Britain the eternal right to recruit Nepalese men into the British Army. These Nepalese recruits, called Gurkhas, are indisputably the toughest, most badass soldiers on the planet. Applications are often oversubscribed more than tenfold, so we are definitely getting the best of the best. And legend has it that if a Gurkha unsheathes his knife, the kukri, he cannot put it away without first drawing blood. Honestly, the tales of heroism from Gurkhas could go on for days on end. They are incredible. Beyond just territory and military, which are undeniably awesome, the British Empire has been hugely influential in the ways of institutions. Map after map shows vestiges of British rule, though the ones I'd like to highlight are first, the common law legal system, which is a miracle of law wherein legal cases set precedents that apply to all future cases, meaning law is not solely set by the legislature, but by the people. And we have also been hugely influential constitutionally. The bicameral system, which in the UK is the House of Commons and the House of Lords, is seen across the world, though often with different names. In America, the House of Commons is the House of Representatives, and the Lords is the Senate, with the President effectively being king. In Australia, they have a House of Representatives and a Senate too, with the Governor-General acting in place of the king. India has a Westminster-style parliament. Singapore has a Westminster-style parliament. There's one in Kenya. In fact, across the empire, you find countries using the template of Westminster Palace, the mother of all parliaments. But the inspiration doesn't end there. We're getting back into the more trivial here, but Britain has, though many Brits don't notice it, been hugely influential culturally. Take a look at this map of the most popular sports. The old Raj, Australia and the West Indies love cricket, a game which used to epitomise the British attitude of fair play. Even the Afghans like cricket, and they weren't even part of the empire. Then, the Pacifics can't get enough of rugby, and good on them too. Who doesn't like to see the All Blacks doing the haka? Then, besides China liking table tennis, an English invention, and a few others enjoying other sports, practically the whole world loves football. In fact, the map can be recoloured to show which sports are either British or based heavily on another sport that is. Now we can see that, in the realm of sport, Britain truly is king of kings, if only we were any good at them. Then there's language. English is the lingua franca of the world. It is the international language. It's the language of science, of international sport, of air traffic control, of business, and so on. English today has the role that Latin had in the past. It's the most spoken language in the world, official in 67 countries, spoken by 1.5 billion people. The ability to speak English fluently is an immensely valuable skill. Middle-class snobs will point to the British people's far lower average number of spoken languages with scorn, but frankly, we already speak the most useful language in the world. Our ancestors, and later America, were so highly achieving that we don't have to learn a foreign language to do well for ourselves. They have to learn our language. And beyond this, there are other lesser issues. Much of Africa and the New World is Christian. The old architecture and infrastructure is still there. Indians like Royal Enfield motorbikes. People watch James Bond, and so on. Oh, and the suit. I can't forget suits. Many people think England has no national dress. Actually, the suit is our national dress. It just happens to be so universally adopted as the dress to epitomise serious white-collar work that it has now become universal. This is the point. British culture is much more influential than we Brits appreciate. So influential that it has in many ways become universalised and not as unique. Hence why many of us fail to recognise just how influential we really are. Plus we still have the British Museum. As collections of culture and prestige go, it doesn't get much better than that. Then there's the pomp and pageantry. No country can or will do it better than Britain. This is what you get from 1,000 years of tradition, without some psycho-revolutionaries doing away with the whole lot. Yanks could only dream of being so stylish. But you may be surprised to see that the pomp and pageantry isn't just contained in Britain. Can you guess where these people are? Ghana. These boys? Sierra Leone. Him? Or him? Kenya. The ceremonial uniforms of many African ex-colonies are simply the colonial redcoats. And in India, many of their uniforms are from the British designs from World War II. Even some of their regiments were created under imperial rule. In fact, that's also true of South Africa and many other Commonwealth countries, especially the realms. And lastly, there are the honours. It's a bit tongue-in-cheek to say it, but is there any greater white pill to prove that the Empire still exists than the fact that we still have members and commanders of it? Every year there are awarded about 400 MBEs, 200 OBEs, 90 CBEs, and 40 Knights or Dames of the British Grand Empire Cross, with a further 250 to 300 British Empire medals. The British Empire may not be a large club these days, but clearly there are still a decent few officially part of it. And finally, this is perhaps the greatest legacy of the British Empire. Not our dreadful period of being involved in it, of course, but the fact that slavery was outlawed globally. I do intend to make a video dedicated to the British Crusade against slavery, but for now, it suffices to say that the abolitionist movement only seriously began in Britain. England hasn't had slavery since 1086, though it was permitted overseas. Come the start of the 1800s, we banned the trade altogether and began to police the Atlantic to stop the slavers. It was finally abolished properly in 1833, with slavery being outlawed for the entirety of Queen Victoria's reign onwards. We gave up great wealth to buy the freedom of slaves in the empire. We gave life and limb to stop the trade. We fought wars and enforced treaties for the sole purpose of ending the practice, and, though it took over a century, the dream of a world of free men was finally achieved. If it had not been for Britain, with our naval prowess and immense financial wealth, the abolition of slavery could not have been globally enforced. Gunboat diplomacy is frowned upon today, but it was gunboat diplomacy that freed the slaves. If it was not for Britain, slavery would not only be legal today, but mainstream in much of the second and third world. If there is any remaining legacy for us to be most proud of, it is this. I haven't even mentioned science yet, though I can't top this video by Reef Rebels. Go and watch that one next. All said, the British Empire was incredible. It lifted the world out of poverty, abolished slavery, took us through the Industrial Revolution and scientific revolutions, gave good governance and systems of law to primitive peoples, and vastly improved the quality of life for billions of people. Despite the negatives, which I don't understate, the British Empire has been, in my opinion, the best thing to ever happen to the world. The Empire may be gone, and we may never see her like again, but we should nonetheless cherish and preserve what remains. Thank you for watching, I hope you have enjoyed, and I hope this has lifted some spirits. In any case, like, subscribe, and God save the King.